The Pac-9 are headed back to Omaha this weekend. Let's take a walk back with someone who was there when they were there last in 2021.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Friday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by not Kenton Gibbs, but our special guest for today, former Wolfpack outfielder Brett Kinneman. Now, Brett, you're relevant, extremely relevant to the Pac-9 and Omaha. You're a former player from 2016 to 2018, and then you came back and were a student assistant under Coach Elliott Avent in 2021. First question here for you, Brett. Your initial reactions in seeing the team make it back to Omaha in 2024.
Yeah, man, it's just awesome. Of course, happy for Coach Avent and that staff, first and foremost. He deserves it. You know, he's going to give all the credit to the players, but they do such a good job. So kudos to them. But just awesome, obviously tough luck the way 2021 ended. So just nice to see those guys back. Omaha's the coolest place in the world, so it'll be fun to watch the Pack this weekend.
Now, of course, Avent hit 1,000 wins in a Wolfpack uniform this year. Brett, you were a part of probably well over 100 of those, had a lot of success from 16 to 18. Ironically, the last time that NC State hosted regionals in Raleigh was 2016 and 2018. You were there for both of those. What was it like seeing NC State have a regional back in Raleigh for the first time in quite a while?
Yeah, that was great, dude. I was at all of the games this year, and it's funny that you mentioned the stat about 2018 being the last time, because it's kind of one of those things you almost take for granted. We had a nice little stretch there in the late 2010s of hosting some regionals. So nice to be back at home. Fans were great. The place was packed for all the games. So it was enjoyable to see it at home.
What's the difference, like, as a player back in 2018 to now seeing it on the other side as a fan? What's that postseason atmosphere like at the Doak?
Yeah, you obviously have a decent understanding of what's going on with the crowd and stuff as a player. You can hear the cheers and stuff, but you're trying your best, I guess, to not get too involved in what's going on outside of the game itself. So just cool to be a fan, sit in a seat, hear people heckling umpires about balls that are clearly in the other batter's box and they think are strikes and vice versa. So like I said, it was an awesome crowd, man. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Now, getting in more to your relationship with Coach Avent and you being a part of that team in 2021, we're not going to talk about all the shenanigans. We've heard enough about all that. But when you were coming back to be a part of that staff, what was the conversation between you and Coach Avent to bring you back on as a student assistant?
I don't really remember exactly how it all came together, but I do remember. So, 2020 was still playing in the minor leagues.
Yep.
Obviously, pandemic starts, we go home, and then I got released in May of that year. And then, figured out I'm coming back to school as a full-time student. Didn't really want to get a job yet. Was like, hey, I'll take some classes, enjoy myself for another year. And I can't remember. I think I broached the conversation of hey, I'm going to be around. Can I help out a little bit? And of course, they said yes. But yeah, it was cool, man. Full circle. Got to play for him. Got to be in the coach's locker room with him for a year. Obviously, a wildly successful season. So it was a good time.
Talk about the difference between being around him as a player for 3 years and then as a coach. How does your relationship kind of change with him as you grow?
Man, honestly, there's some differences, right? There's some things that I got to experience in the coach's locker room that I, of course, would have never experienced as a player. But I think that's one of the great things about him is, obviously you're a guy that plays every day. You're hitting in the 5-6 hole, playing outfield every single day. You're naturally going to like the guy that puts your name on the lineup card. But you very rarely come across a guy that even, was a part of the program. Maybe they've got 10 at-bats in their career and still love the guy. So, I don't think, the relationship itself probably didn't change much. Again, I got to probably experience some things that I maybe otherwise wouldn't have if I just played for him. But again, man, I loved him. Of course, easy for me. I was in the lineup a lot, but there's not many former baseball players in NC State that wouldn't feel the same way I do.
Yeah, that actually leads me perfectly into my next question. All the former players you hear about, they have nothing but immaculate things to say about Coach Avent and how much he deserves these trips to Omaha and deserves the opportunity to compete for a championship. What are some of the things that you've learned from Coach Avent that you'll carry with you throughout your life?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I like to think of it as like almost like a parent figure, right? Like you want somebody that loves you, but it's going to be tough on you when they need to be. And I think he always struck the right balance, right? Of course, there's days where maybe he had a bad day before practice, went a little rough, or whatever the case be. But I think it's just a matter of knowing the importance of making sure that somebody knows you care about them, but being willing to give them a little bit of heck sometimes too when it's warranted.
Yeah, Kenton, my co-host, we talk a lot about how there just feels like there's no other coach at NC State more deserving of these types of moments than Coach Avent. Obviously, been here for 28 years, over 1,000 wins in a Wolfpack uniform, and he's been nothing but a perfect ambassador for NC State. And we're so proud to have him as a quality representative of everything that's happened over the years. We're all rooting for him real hard to make it back to Omaha and make a little bit additional noise this time around. I'm going to read a quick ad here, Brett, and then we're going to get into more of what you thought about this season and what the guys have a chance to do in Omaha this time around. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Today's sponsor is eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, but it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, and LED headlights, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. That's because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Middle portion of our Friday show, jumping right back into our conversation with former Wolfpack outfielder Brett Kinneman. Brett, I can only assume you've watched a whole lot of NC State baseball this year. Walk us through your thoughts as the season went on. Had some early struggles and then the beginning of ACC play, several injuries that they've had to deal with. Talk about the resiliency on your end from this team.
Yeah, it's been a fun team to watch. I think you've got your stalwarts, right? You've got your AMAC, your Garrett Pennington, guys like that have had really good at bats all year. And then it's just crazy. Like you get some tough injuries, probably like the 2/3 of the way through with Van Dam going down, Josh Ho getting hurt, and then just see the other pieces in the lineup, start to come together. Eli Serrano's obviously freaking crazy hot right now. Yeah. And then the pitching, of course, too. You've got Sammy, guy's unreal. Like, got to be like top 5 all time. I don't know, maybe bias, recency bias, but and then that bullpen's crazy. Like it does, like, to me, draw some parallels to 21, where towards the back half of that year, you get to like the 6th inning, you got a little lead, and it feels like man, like this is going to be hard for us to lose. And that's how it feels when you can get to the point where you got Consiglia or Jacob Duden or Derek Smith. So it's just been fun to watch. I think they've been good all year. I think you get some tough breaks in midweek games. Obviously, you get some good breaks maybe in league play here and there too. But it's always cool to see a team get hot at the right time.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. There are a lot of parallels between the 21 team, and there are even some early struggles in that season before they got ridiculously hot once April rolled around. And then, you talk about shortening a game, being able to hand it over. Back then, it was to Evan Justice, and now you have Jacob Duden, who is a freak of nature as just a freshman, and then you have Derek Smith to close it down there. Now, Brett, you were down in Athens, unfortunately not for Game 3. That's a tough ask on a Monday night, but walk us through the nerves of being in the stands for a super regional on the road like that.
Yeah, it was cool. I've never been to Athens. That's a cool stadium. I think they're actually like doing renovations. I saw a tweet today that they're knocking a bunch of stuff down. But yeah, I mean, obviously, well, I don't know. The nerves part's hard, right? Because there's like 4 innings of like super, super competitive baseball on Saturday and Sunday. But just cool to see, man. Like that second inning on Saturday was unreal. It just felt like all things coming up good for us. It was a good time though. They had good fans too. It was a cool place to watch a couple games.
And I don't want to make you pick favorites here, but who's been some of your favorite guys to watch this year? Just to name a couple.
I'm biased towards lefties, so I'm liking Serrano right now. Of course, Amax has been a lot of fun to watch. Jacob Cozart's been cool, and I love watching Luke Nixon play. Man, like runs the bases like crazy. Had a couple sweet, base running plays. Just those little things that as a casual baseball fan, you maybe don't notice all of those things going on in a game, but do appreciate that. I don't know. I mean, there's not many guys I don't enjoy watching on the team this year, so it's been a fun team to watch.
Now, looking at the Omaha bracket here, it's an SEC and ACC matchup, but NC State's on the side of the other 3 SEC teams. If you were in their shoes, if you were a player in this College World Series, would you rather be on the side where you have to make it through 3 other SEC teams, or would you rather be on the ACC side where you've already beaten those 3 teams?
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of half dozen one or the other, right? You get like some familiarity when you're playing teams that you played all year with Virginia and Carolina. But then it's also cool to play some teams that you hadn't seen all year. If you want to play the ACC versus SEC battle, it's cool if we can get out of that side of the bracket, maybe face one of those ACC teams in the national championship. So I don't know. It's hard to say, but I do think it'll be fun to see us play Kentucky on Saturday. You don't want to look ahead, but potential matchup with A&M or Florida in that 1-0 game would be cool. Maybe see us versus Cags on Monday night. That'd be fun. But
yeah, I think it's a really favorable draw for State. Again, like you said, you can't look ahead of Kentucky. They're the number 2 team overall, but I just feel like with Kentucky, there's a lot of things that they do well, but there's not really like one thing that they excel at. They just play really solid baseball. So, I mean, when you're looking at it from that perspective, I think NC State can take them. Absolutely. You talk about shortening the game and the explosive offense, should be able to handle business there. And then if we do survive Kentucky, and if Florida finds a way to beat A&M, basically the second best player in the country after you just knocked out Charlie Condon and Jack Caglione. Talk about what it would have been like, Brett, to see a guy like Jack Caglione back in like 2016.
Dude, I joke all the time. Like, I played college baseball at the right time. If I'd have played college baseball now with, I feel like when I was in college, we're doing the same kind of stuff. Coaches are doing scouting reports during the week. We, get to our little base running thing in the outfield, maybe have maybe a little different now. But anyways, we'd have like a little 5-minute, talk about right before the game outside of like the preparation during the week of, hey, reminder, we've got so-and-so on the mound. And I feel like the stock righty was, 88 to 93, maybe decent breaking ball. Never 3 pitches, it seemed. Always maybe 2 really good ones. If it was 3, it's like elite. And now it's like you don't see a right-hander in starting in college baseball doesn't touch 96, 97. I'm like, I would have been screwed. I'm kidding. Well, maybe, I don't know. But anyways, it would have been – it's cool though, man. Like, there was never – I can't think of any like matchups when I played necessarily. We never got to see Casey Mize in 18. Right. But yeah, that would be something.
Something else I've noticed with Avent's teams over the years, he puts a lot of faith in younger guys like freshmen. For example, you played a lot when you were a freshman. And I already talked about Jacob Duden. For him to come in and punch out Charlie Condon with the bases loaded on the road in Game 3, talk about what that feels like as just a freshman in this program to have so much trust in your skipper.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, honestly, like sometimes I think you can be very nervous as a freshman, but also you're just kind of like new to the whole thing, and it's easy to like ignorance is bliss a little bit, so you hadn't been through it yet, so maybe a little bit of initial jittery nerves. But yeah, I mean, dude, those breaking balls he threw to Condon in that situation were unreal. Like 91 absolute bangers off the plate, like unbelievable. But yeah, and I think like the young guys playing, right? I think it's a testament to one, recruiting that they've done, but also development. Not everybody that comes is probably ready on day one, but you get a full fall with the coaching staff. You start to get a couple at bats, a couple innings under yourself in the spring, and it's not coincidence that it feels like every year we've got some young guys that are studs.
And you mentioned player development. One of your former teammates, JT Jarrett, is now the director of player and program development back at State. What's that been like to see him in this kind of position return to state and be an integral part of the staff?
Yeah, that's so cool, dude. We got to play together. He was a freshman my junior year, so we got to be teammates for a year, and then of course, got to hang out with him a bit in 21 when I was back around. But it's always fun to see former players get back involved in the program in some way. Obviously, JT's got good coaching bloodlines. I'm sure at some point he'll be an awesome head coach in college baseball or wherever he wants to coach. So, like I said, just super cool to see him specifically, but really in general, any former player that's able to get back involved, it's awesome.
Yeah, it'd be something to have to see his old man in the national championship. I can
right.
only imagine the stress that put on his mom and the rest of his family. But
yeah,
Brett, before I let you get out of here, this is a pretty obvious question. How are you feeling about the Pack's chances to go back to Omaha, rewrite some wrongs, and hoist some hardware at the end of this thing?
Yeah, man, I'm feeling optimistic. I think like bracket draw is real. I do think our side is a little bit more. Obviously it's a loaded thing. You got 8 really good teams, but it does feel like we got pretty good matchups. Hope you can stay hot, pitch it good, hit it good, get a couple homers out of that place. But yeah, I'm feeling good about it, and I will. I shouldn't say certainly, but most certainly be there next weekend if we get there. So
I'm in the same boat. I can't make it this weekend. I'm praying they can survive a weekend so I can head on.
That's right,
there.
Man. Have you been before?
I was out there in 21.
Awesome, dude. It's like literally the freaking mecca of college baseball. Yeah. It's so cool. But
I tell folks on this show all the time, if you've never watched the college baseball postseason or if you've never been to Omaha, it's a bucket list. You have to go to witness this type of event. It's one of the coolest things of all time.
Even if you just like just a general baseball fan, man, it's like the coolest thing in the world. And it's almost easier to plan for it if you're not like waiting to see if your team gets in. I'm sure like, you take your dad, take somebody out there, just plan a vacation. It's especially that first weekend, you got all 8 teams, fans from all over the place. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, former Wolfpack outfielder Brett Kinneman, thank you so much for joining us here. Looking forward to seeing the Wolfpack back in Omaha this weekend. Obviously, they start with Kentucky on Saturday. We got some unfinished business in Omaha. Thanks a lot, Brett. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, man. Go Pack.
Rounding out our Friday show, as you see, I got Kenton back in the saddle with me. It's now time for Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. Here we go. First one comes from Adam Davenport. They say, I have a question for everyone who is watching this video. What do you think of the 1983 men's basketball team suing the NCAA for royalties using their name and posting videos on YouTube of their most famous game ever? A whole lot of something or a whole lot of nothing. Very nice touch on the end of that. To be honest, I'm not really sure what to make of this. I did see this come across social media on Monday. I kind of did like a triple take and said, wait a minute, they're doing what? And then I just kind of went about my day because I was so nervous about Super Regional Game 3. I've since circled back to read the article on this. So for anyone that is unaware, this comes from ESPN. 10 players from NC State's 1983 national champion basketball team are suing the NCAA and the Collegiate Licensing Company, seeking compensation for unauthorized use of their name, image, and likeness. The players filed suit in Wake County Superior Court on Monday, requesting a jury trial and reasonable compensation. And then it says, quote, for more than 40 years, the NCAA and its co-conspirators have systematically and intentionally misappropriated the Cardiac Pack's publicity rights, including their names, images, and likenesses associated with that game and that play, reaping scores of millions of dollars from the Cardiac Pack's legendary victory. Kenton, what do you make of this? I'm still quite not sure yet.
I'm not going to lie to you, right? I've met Thurl Bailey. I've met Wittenberg in person. Cozell McQueen is the father of 2 of my frat brothers that I know well and all that. And I'm going to tell you something. Those are a very principled group of men. And I mean this from a very genuine standpoint. These are not the type of men that would do things that they know are underhanded, not right, anything like that for money, as far as I know them. That's me being very serious here. Now, am I saying that they are incapable of doing those things? I don't put anything past anybody. But by and large, as I know them, again, stand-up guys. If they're suing here, there is something at play that they feel like, hey, this is not, this ain't right. This is something here is being done that is erroneous or that is working in a way that it shouldn't be. And so I'm all, if the 1983 team has 1 million fans, I'm one of them. If they have one fan, it's me. If there are no fans of that team, I have gone from this earth. Do what y'all got to do. Get paid.
No, I think you said it exactly right. For them to take this as far as the court, they have seen some type of number that does not sit well with their soul. And for that reason, they're taking action here. If this is how they feel, who are we to oppose? I say I'm all for it. I mean, on the surface level, again, I saw this on Monday. I was like, wait a minute, what? They're doing this 40 years later for what exactly? But again, they had to have seen some astronomical number that they feel that they have sorely missed out on. So, hey, man, get your money. If you feel like you're entitled to all this money that's going around based on the cardiac pack, yeah, they absolutely do deserve it, especially this new world of NIL. There's already tons of back pay that's going to be in the works for several other former collegiate athletes. So, hey, if they feel like they're owed some green, go get that bag, man. Second one here. This one comes from Jay Delancey. They say Amato's Doc Holliday started the Florida rating parties, but Coach Dave has broken the code, which is why we're such a pain in the neck to Florida State. So obviously this is in context of NC State football picking out 4 recruits early in their 2025 recruiting class, all coming from the state of Florida. And we talked about the significance of picking out of the pockets of schools like Florida, Florida State, Miami, USF, UCF. This is only going to help NC State continue to raise the floor of our own program way up here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'll tell you something else. It also helps when you have beaten Florida State 5 out of the last 6 times. It's sort of crazy how the world kind of got inverted like 6 years ago, and all of a sudden we're putting whoopings on Florida State after receiving a solid number of those for decades on end. But NC State has experienced a lot of success against Florida State football the last decade or so, and Carter Finley's been a house of horrors for the Seminoles coming up here and having to play us. Us picking out of their pockets and taking some Florida recruits makes that dynamic just a little bit sweeter. So this is awesome to see.
You want the best players from every single place you can get them from. But I will tell you, it does feel sweet stealing a guy like C.J. Bailey from Miami's backyard.
Oh, yeah.
It does feel sweet stealing these corners out of Florida State's backyard. It does. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's not a little bit of an added bonus. Like, oh, you thought that was your guy, didn't you? Oh, you thought you had one? You thought you had one? And, not only just taking guys, but taking guys who are going to be impact players in the future. Because, again, you talk about how depleted our secondary is going to be after Aiden White leaves and all that. But then you say to yourself, we could be restocking with another phenomenal defensive back class. And then even beyond that, you talk about the fact that we wanted a quarterback that was going to be here for years. Because with all due respect to Brennan Armstrong, with all due respect to Grayson McCall and all that he could be this year, there is nothing better than having a guy that you're going to have for multiple years in that system for multiple years. He knows it like the back of his hand. He knows what the reads are, where to go. So it's always good to get those wins. And, hey, I'm never going to say that winning games against a marquee team is a bad thing. I don't care if they're up, down, or all around. Get your wins where you can. And we have been doing quite a bit of winning against Florida State in recent history.
Next one comes from Tim from NC. They say, when Jacob Duden came in to face the best hitter in college, called my daughter that went to the same high school in Huntersville as Jacob and last year grad Kemi from State. We were screaming about what he did. 1 out, bases loaded, and shut down their best. Unbelievable 18-year-old kid in that situation. So proud. So this kind of speaks to more of what I was talking about in Tuesday's Omaha episode. I still cannot wrap my mind around what Jacob Duden did on Monday night to Charlie Condon. Being just a freshman in, one of the most tense, pressure-filled situations you can possibly imagine in college baseball. Facing the other team's best player on the road, one of the top hitters in the country, just a freshman, again, who was in high school some 11, 12 months ago. That's something that you can only really dream of. And then for him to effortlessly punch out the top player in the country. Charlie Condon just won, I believe it was the perfect game player of the year in college baseball. Wasn't kidding. He is the best of the best. And Jacob Duden came in and absolutely mowed him down. It has not gotten any more believable as this week has gone on. It is insane what he did for us on Monday night.
Absolutely. And you can't overlook. I talked about Elliott Avent and the cojones he had to go to him in that moment. But let's think about Jacob Duden and being a guy that can be relied upon in that moment.
Yeah.
How big is that to be a flatliner in that moment, to not let that adrenaline get you too pumped to where you're missing your location? This is a very special moment. And this is when you go forward, you talk about having a margin of error that's not very big. You're going against the best hitter in the nation. If he gets a single, at least 1 run scores, maybe 2, depending on where he gets hit. If he gets a double, most likely 3 runs are going to score. If he knocks that thing out of the yard, we're having a very different conversation right now.
Yeah.
More likely than not. So Jacob Duden, Jacob the Dude Duden from now on, because that man, he's a dude. He came in and did what he had to do to show that he's not just some other pitcher. He's Jacob Duden, damn it, and he's going to show you something special whenever he's asked to come out there and clean up.
And you think about how big that is heading into Omaha now. If you can thrive in a moment like that in the Super Regional, there's really nothing that can spook you once you get to Omaha. You've been through one of the toughest situations you can find yourself in, and you passed it about as easily as one could do just on 4 pitches. So to have that kind of confidence coming into Omaha can't be understated how important that is. Next one comes from Alex Gregory. They say, that's why Elliott Avent is so great as a head coach. He's another in a line of great men that have led this program. Thank you, Sam Esposito, Ray Tanner, and Elliott Avent. We've been blessed. Now's the time to do what's right and start the plans and fundraising for a brand new state-of-the-art baseball stadium. Well, I'll tell you this, Alex. The plans are already in place. It's just the fact that they've been delayed because they were supposed to be done this year, delayed into what is expected to be completion this coming off season. But furthering your point here, they better build this program a freaking castle to play in. The accomplishments that Elliott Avent has rattled off here at NC State over the course of his entire 28-year tenure, over 1,000 wins, 3 trips to Omaha now, that is something that is extremely hard to do. And folks get really wrapped up in, well, he doesn't have a title. He doesn't have an ACC championship. He doesn't have a national championship. It doesn't quite work that way in college baseball. I understand the urge to bring home a trophy, but Elliott Avent has done so much with extremely limited facilities. If you look around the rest of the ACC, just calling a spade here, NC State's Doak Field is very well behind the times. Right. I'm talking like Virginia Tech has a better facility than we do. Georgia Tech, I mean, they have a storied history in college baseball. They have a better facility than we do. Don't even get me started on the Dirty Foot Club. As much as I hate to admit it, they have a state-of-the-art baseball stadium over there in Dirty Foot Land. It's well past due that NC State catches up to the times and builds a stadium that is right for this program. A stadium that reflects all of the success that they've experienced over decades under Elliott Avent's watch, because they deserve every single bit of it.
He hasn't won a national championship yet.
Yeah.
Yet. He hasn't won an ACC championship yet. The more that I hear from Elliott Avent, right, I'm thinking, I used to think like, all right, his time is winding down. He looks a little, it looks like it's getting near dawn. And he's about, and then all of a sudden, it feels like this team has energized him. It feels like he's activated because of this team, and like he's got another 5 years in him. And Elliott Avent doesn't owe us a damn thing. If he decided to retire literally at the dead end of this run, I wouldn't be mad at him. If he decided he wants to stick around until he can't do it no more, I'm not mad at him. But the reality is, it feels so much like this team has brought a new energy back into him. It feels so much like this fan base has bought the energy always. And it feels so much like a new state-of-the-art stadium that was already underway in terms of being built will do wonders for not only this team, but again, Elliott Avent in and of himself, because he's one of those guys that he's just so excitable about everything. And to see an extremely updated facility, I'm sure he'd be geeked out of his mind about it.
A facility that matches the accomplishments of the program is something that has been missed out on for so long. And once you reach that point where it does accurately reflect, you think recruiting and player development is good now, just wait. NC State will reach a whole nother level of college baseball prestige once they have everything that backs up what they've accomplished on the diamond. So it's extremely long overdue. I hope maybe that this run to Omaha this year, maybe they'll add in a couple more bells and whistles than maybe they had originally planned for. Give them everything that they want and more. This team deserves it. This program deserves it. And our head coach, Elliott Avent, deserves it. And last one here before we get out of here on Friday. Perfect context for the College World Series beginning on Friday. State plays on Saturday, but this comes from Harrison244. We got to get our Jello shot numbers up at Rocco's now. Now, for those that don't understand the context of this, there is a restaurant in Omaha by the name of Rocco's. I'm not sure when this contest began, but it really blew up on social media just a couple years ago. They do a Jello shot contest. It's for fans of all 8 teams that are coming into Omaha for the World Series. And it is the most Jello shots purchased per team. Now, if you do know what this is, then you know that LSU put up a unfathomable number last year. I think it was like 68,000 Jello shots, which you might expect because people from Louisiana, they will get after it when you put alcohol in front of them. But for all Pac-9 fans that are traveling out to Omaha to see our guys in the College World Series, get your weight up. Get your money up, not your funny.
Hey now.
NC State represent in the Jello Shot Challenge as well as the College World Series itself. Not to call him out here, I would assume that Tom Lavolsi is going to be heading out to Omaha. We need you, man. Inside Pack Sports, One Pack NIL. We got to put up some serious numbers here. Relatively insignificant to on-the-field stuff, but it's so funny to see when these teams are putting up astronomical numbers in the Jello Shot Challenge. Just another thing that makes Omaha so special this time of year. So find it on Twitter. I think it's like CWS Jello Shot Challenge. Just watch the numbers that some of these schools and these fan bases will put up. It's hysterically funny.
If you're a Wolfpack fan and you're in Omaha and you don't find yourself saying one of these 3 phrases, or I'm sorry, one of these 4 phrases, it's not hot in here to y'all, or is it just me? These are starting to taste like water. I'll fight anybody in here, or of course, hey, I love y'all. I don't know if I've told you, but I love all you guys. If you don't find yourself saying one of those 4 phrases, you have failed Wolfpack Nation. Okay? If Grayson and myself were there, we would be staring at each other going Jello shot for Jello shot, screaming around. Is somebody going to match my drink? Is somebody going to match my drink? Because that's how we get down, okay? I'm too competitive, and I know that, right? I had an ex who made me do things that I was bad at, specifically to get some of that competitiveness out of me. But a moment like this, where the numbers are public, I'm not going down without a fight. I'm not going down without a fight. I'll tell you what, my liver would be feeling like Randy Marsh in that Bat Dad episode where he said, I ain't hear no bell. I ain't hear no bell. Because if we're behind, run it up. Run it up till they change Rocco's to the Wolfies, okay? Keep on running it. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you know, of course, do so responsibly, do so safely. But Wolfpack, let's get after it. Let's get the hell after it.
Florida State, are you going to match my nasty? Tennessee, are you about to match my freak? We're going to find out. NC State fans, make sure if you're out in Omaha, head over to Rocco's, throw down a couple bucks, get you some Jello shots, have a little fun. Just call it vacation. You're on vacation out in Omaha, Nebraska. But yeah, it's just another spectacle that goes hand in hand with the College World Series out in Omaha. That'll do it for us here on Friday. Great episode. We started off with Brett Kinneman joining us. Then we had to bring our guy Kenton back in to finish out with Fan Friday. College World Series begins on Friday, but NC State does not play until Saturday, 2 p.m. East Coast time. We'll play the Kentucky Wildcats. First game for us back in Omaha since 2021. It's going to be a surreal feeling seeing the guys back out there, seeing Sam Highfill back on the mound again after he became an NC State legend way back when he shut out Vanderbilt. It's going to be a crazy moment to see NC State back in the College World Series, and I am anxiously awaiting for us to get back after it as we do have very unfinished business. That'll do it for us here on Friday. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us what you thought about our interview with Brett Kinneman and everything that he has meant to this NC State baseball program. Any other comments you have on your mind, throw them down in the comment box. I'll be sure to get to each and every one of those. Again, be sure to watch your Pac-9 this weekend. Saturday is the opening game, 2 p.m. against Kentucky. We'll see you all on Monday. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.